I don't know if everyone here is completely familiar with thejournal.ie, probably Professor Curran isn't, but we are an online-only Irish news publication. We're owned by Distill Media. It's essentially funded by the Fallon brothers who set up daft.ie, so that's the ownership thing out of the way. We've been up and running for about 16 months now, and social media has really been integral to us about both building our audience, but also kind of deciding on what we were going to do, what people were interested in, what was going to engage them, what issues we should be covering, what kind of news agenda should we be setting. If we're going to set it, are we going to follow the one that everyone is following in the morning on Morning Ireland, or is there something else out there? So in terms of establishing ourselves, we've never really advertised or marketed. We always focus very much on social media, because I think we're very conscious that a lot of people, especially in Ireland, because we're quite a local-based news site at the moment, are very, they use their Twitter site as a news feed, essentially, to get a sense of what's going on in their world at a particular time during the day. So we thought, you know, we should acknowledge the power of social media to disseminate information. And I think the one thing we'd all acknowledge here is that that is the major thing about it, the efficiency with which information shoots through social networks. So it's whether or not you're going to decide that this is something to be completely afraid of, or if this is something that you go, well, maybe if we're going to talk about who can you trust on social media and social networks on the internet, maybe there's actually niche for creating something that becomes a trusted source and a credible place to go within social networks. So that's where we try to pitch ourselves. So to that end, like when we started up, we live blog a lot of events now if they're happening, because we're very much kind of breaking news, sort of update throughout the day site. But we would have live tweeted events at the start, which doesn't bring people directly to your site. But if people know that if something is happening, when Martin resigned, it was a Sunday evening or whatever, one of the guys shot down, live tweeted the event, we were there. And this kind of thing, we was particularly busy news cycle when we set up, but essentially that was something that created our presence within the social media streams. People got used to seeing us there. They got used to us responding to them on social media when they would ask us, what's happening now? And if we didn't know, we would say something, we say, we're on it, we're looking into it, we'll get back onto you. So I think engaging with the way that social media works and respecting the way it works, I think has been just really important to us. So now we would be about like over 130,000 followers on Facebook and 30,000 plus on Twitter. So we would be one of the bigger news presences in Ireland on social media. So we're kind of happy enough there, and we've kind of developed from there, and we obviously do live blogs, and most people now come to the site directly, as about 20% come to us through tweets or Facebook posts. The rest would actually check in with us on our apps and so on. So I suppose being so immersed in social media, the other side of it was we don't really feel afraid of it as a resource. Like I think there is a bit of a paralysing fear. I don't believe this is among all journalists, or traditional media as people like to call it, which I'm not really sure is the term we should be using anymore. Is it legacy media like the people in the States say? I don't know. But I think if you can trust it, if you're going to use it as a resource, but you apply the same journalistic rigours and the same editorial framework. That's what we do. If we're going to publish something on the site, it's something we can stand over. So I don't see how that has changed from what, say, traditional media would say that they're doing. So I think, you know, writing off the internet or social media as a cacophony of voices that you can find some good in and find some new issues in is absolutely bonkers. It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe that's just where I work. So look, I just thought I'd go through a few examples of stories. These are just kind of random, and they're all different times where social media was basically what we were looking at. Now, obviously what we've heard a lot of, I suppose, is people being killed off on social networks, on Twitter. In some cases they are actually dead, and people have, you know, tweeted a little bit early or whatever. In other cases, like John Bon Jovi and Ger Loughnane would attest, no, they're not dead at all. So we would never print something just because it says it on social media. But for example, with Brian Linehan, there was at least 3 times when this poor man was very ill, when Twitter had a rumour going around that he died. So each time we looked at it, and then we assess where these tweets are originally coming from, and is it worth following up on it before we take it any further. In one case, 2 cases we did. The first time we quickly confirmed it wasn't true, and in fact we tweeted as much just to stop the inquiries that were coming into us. The second time, unfortunately, we got it confirmed pretty quickly. We didn't release it for a while because they said there's still, the family wasn't after long happening. And then when we got a second okay in the constituency office, we went with this. And so sometimes I know people think of like, you're on the internet, you have to be first off the mark and that kind of thing. You still have to apply a little bit of the traditional ethics and principles and just fact-checking, basic fact-checking. Because you can be sure, actually, if you get something wrong on the internet, it'll be so quick. People will be so quick to get back to you and tell you when you're wrong. So that's quite important. This would be, for example, we were touched on citizen journalism there, and I'm sure we're going to get into it in more of the conversations later. But I'm just questioning, what is citizen journalism exactly? These pictures are of these very swanky chairs worth a few €100 each being offloaded at Bord Gáis headquarters around the corner from where I live, but I was in work so I didn't see it, but one of our readers did and sent in these photographs. This was a few weeks after Bord Gáis had said they were going to hike rates by 22%. So we said, okay, fair enough. I know one other internet site got them, they just put the pictures up. We decided we want to put context on it, we want to make sure that they're actually taken today and so on. So our reader went back and took photographs that further put in context of where it was, and also there's the label telling us exactly where it's going to, Bord Gáis and Warrington Place. We found out who the suppliers of these very singular chairs were, who told us how many had been delivered, said that they'd had to apply for a tender and so on, and Bord Gáis, of course, denied that, it cost that much at all, blah, blah, blah. So once we had all those things in place, we put it up. So we started wondering about Alex French, though. I mean, Alex French, is he just an eyewitness, or is he actually a citizen journalist? And is that a kind of a term of derision? Alex French saw these chairs and knew that it was newsworthy because he's an engaged person who doesn't actually have that much to do with the internet, but realised that, this is actually a really bad time for Bord Gáis to be buying lots of chairs, fine for them, and, health and safety and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of questioned about the idea that the internet is just another source now. I think it's actually developing a little bit beyond that. Let's see what else I will go quickly. This is the floods. This is an interesting case as well. The floods, there was some very bad floods in the end of autumn last year in Dublin and Wicklow, and some people died, and it was really horrendous. This is interesting because even if you had the resources of a team of reporters on the ground to hit the streets, geographically and physically that night you couldn't get anywhere. I had one guy trying to get home in the office. I sent him home early. He was doing work on his laptop in the cab trying to get home to it. But essentially we were like, okay, we're going to do a call out, and we got people to send us in their pictures, they were geo-marked as well, so we could tell where they were, so we could give a sense of what was happening in different parts of the city. And then on from that, we got a tip on this story, which then became something that we were able to follow over 2 days, which is an investigation as to why these floodgates were locked in Sandymount. Image was originally sent to us by a reader. We got in contact with councillors. At first, the council said, no, it's all fine, they're not meant to be opened. But we had firefighter contacts who said, we're down there, we've had to open them with a padlock. There's a photograph. This is the original photograph of one of the residents trying to open it up. So originally that night, we couldn't follow too much up on it. This is a story the following day. This story became part of the report on the floods and what happened and why things happened. So I think what I'm saying is there's an immediacy about the way we're working at the moment, but there's certainly work that can be done on the internet where you can use the immediate facts that you get and slowly build up something around it. So there's a kind of a long tail view of what we're doing as well. I'm conscious now I'm at my 8 minutes, so I'm not going to go on to. I just wanted to show you a few examples because I think social media and the information that goes out and if people are worried can't be controlled, can't be trusted. I think that our job, if we're media, digital media, who are responding to it, we can, because we're experts, we're professionals, we can filter, we can help, we can put a context, we can use our contacts, and that's what we've been trying to do so far. So anyway, that's me.